Hello, everybody. So, thank you for attending the August edition of the Tell Us About Your Travels program. We're very grateful for everybody here, especially of the 18 months that we haven't really been active in person. So, this is kind of the more hyper thing we're doing. So, what is going to happen is that we're going to be filming this, and then it will be posted on YouTube afterwards. So all you here are going to have the live experience, while everybody on YouTube will have the YouTube experience. So, hi! So, for today, I do have some things to announce. So, for those who registered, we do have some grab-and-go bags that actually have some nice goodies. So, Michael?
Yep. Oh, am I in the way?
That's all right. So for those who registered early, we do get some stuff like 2 bags of Royal Myanmar tea mix, which is basically their best and authentic Myanmar milk tea. And we also a nice short bibliography of all of the items, books and ebooks or DVDs about anything relating to Myanmar. So I hope you all enjoy those. And I do have one more announcement. So for those who are very familiar with the program, I've been a co-chair for over 2 years, and I'm sad to say that this is my last time doing the program. I accepted a full-time job, so this is going to be a little bittersweet, but whoever gets the reins of the travel program, I'm sure that they'll carry on for just as long as the program's been going on for over 10 years there. So anyway, so let's get back on track. So for today's presentation, we have Nancy and Michael Moon, and they are going to talk about their travels to Myanmar. So I will let them take over. So here you go.
Thank you, Emily.
You're welcome there. Oh, I forgot one quick thing. We are going to have a 15-minute break around 7:45. Just want to let you know. Anyway, sorry about that.
Very good.
It's not working again.
Very good. Did you? Just a few things to get out of the way beforehand. As whenever this can be turned on, you can see that this was January 2011. So we went to Myanmar in January 2011 because at that point in time was when they first started opening up, or reopening up, I guess I should say, to tourism. And it was one of those countries of, exotic countries of mystery that there, for us, there was a built-up anticipation of visiting. Also, that was 10 years ago. So things may have changed since then. Certainly political things have changed since then. And again, these are our impressions. Every one of the photos that we show were photos that we took with one exception that I will point out. And of course, there's one photo with the 2 of us in it that obviously neither of us could take. So anyway, as I said, these are our impressions and all, and any errors or mistakes, I apologize for in advance, but these are, as I said, our impressions and our photos. First of all, let's just get an overall view of Myanmar. And again, I may interchange Burma and Myanmar during the talk, but as you can see, a very long country. Its borders are with Thailand, Laos, China, India, and Bangladesh. Let's see, here is Yangon or Rangoon, the old capital and largest city. We will start out there, and we will also spend a lot of time in the central plains around Mandalay, Bagan, and in the Shan State. This is Shan State here, including Inle Lake. And I will remind you when we go to see those places. Okay. In the 12th and 13th centuries was a very great important time for Burma. The kingdom flourished then, especially on those central plains around Mandalay. The kings built many temples and pagodas, of which we'll be showing a lot of them. And it was a center for Theravada Buddhism. And as you will see throughout, most of the people of Myanmar are devout Buddhists. And this area of the Central Plains became the birthplace of much of the Burmese culture and language. Okay, to move a little bit more towards the present, Burma was part of the British Empire, as was India, the area now known as Bangladesh, during the starting in the mid-19th century. As most of you probably know, Burma was occupied by Japan during World War II, and many of you may have read or seen the movie Bridge Over the River Kwai, which took place in Burma. Gained its independence in 1948 and was known as Burma, as it was under the British, until 1989, when military junta took over and renamed the country Myanmar. The name, this name, Myanmar, comes from the Burmese Myan, or I should say, I guess, Myanmar, which translates into English as the strong. The capital, Rangoon, became Yangon, and in 2006, the military junta that was in charge at the time rebuilt a brand new capital, which I'm not going to pronounce. That area is, as far as we were concerned when we were there, off limits to any foreign visitors. Okay. Now, the country of Myanmar. I don't know if you could get any kind of impression of this from that map, but it's the largest country in mainland Southeast Asia, larger than Thailand, Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia. The Burmese military still remains a powerful force in their politics. The country is something of a conundrum. It is very rich in natural resources. It's rich in oil and gas, also jade, rubies, and other gems. And yet, it has some of the poorest people in the world. And looking at the income, it has one of the widest gaps of any country between those who are the wealthiest and those who are the poorest. Now, transportation, this is somewhat tongue-in-cheek. Particularly in the large cities, in Yangon and Mandalay, you see plenty of automobiles and taxis, but yet, still in 2011, you see ox carts. It's actually then, part of the draw of the country, one of those countries where you can see modern right next to old rural Myanmar or Burma. Another thing you might notice, we'll talk a little bit about the people of Myanmar. Generally, we found people of Myanmar be lovely, very friendly people. One of the things that you notice when you first arrive is many of the women wear this tanaka. It's a yellowish paste made from a tree bark. And you will see this in a number of the photos that we show. There are some differences in the way that they apply it and the locations. But the idea is to keep the skin cool in a very hot, humid climate and protect from the sun. Next. Okay, the mode of dress, the longji. These are what we might call sarongs, worn by both men and women, but the patterns and the way it is worn is different for men and women. For women, the patterns and the way it is worn is called achik, and for men it's bangalk. Another thing that you notice right off is, particularly if you're in a market area, which is very interesting and great fun to do, to go to markets, that many people carry things on their heads. And if you notice, some may be directly on their head, and some may have this bandana that's being used. This, like I said, is very popular in markets, people carrying things to sell or bringing home their groceries. Myanmar has more than 135 ethnic groups, and each group has distinctive culture, traditions, and many of those groups you find in particular areas of the country. The main ethnic group, the Bamar, that are about 70% of the population, are predominantly in the central part of the country, the Irrawaddy River plains, down to Rangoon or Yangon at the delta. Oh, okay, that's what I just said. They are traditionally rice farmers, with the cuisine centering around rice, noodles, fish, lots of vegetables. Very well known for their preparations of vegetables. Their children are named for the day of the week that they were born on, and in the Burmese week has 8 days, not 7, because Wednesday is split. Morning and afternoon. Now, we will see different tribal groups. This tribal group, though, we saw right in the Mandalay region because they had come there to perform. They are from the northern hills, and they're predominantly known for their women wearing the neck rings. They start as young girls, applying the brass coils around the neck. They actually depress the collarbone by putting those rings on. that tribe is particularly known for as being performers with traditional songs and dances. And this one evening, we were treated to some performances by these women. Okay. Another thing is you go around the country, you see that the water buffalo is an essential part of their lives, used for plowing and for carrying everything that you can imagine on carts. Okay, so now we'll start with the beginning of our tour was in Rangoon or Yangon. It's very impressive at night. This is the night skyline in Rangoon, and you can see this pagoda, I'm not going to name it yet, from almost anywhere in the city, particularly at night because it is lit. It's a very impressive sight. Rangoon is as I said before, the largest city, and many colonial era buildings. It does suffer from inadequate infrastructure. Here's one of the colonial buildings, the City Hall. And just as you go around Rangoon, here's just a few street scenes. Monks are present everywhere. They're not necessarily cloistered. Again, just some street scenes. Here's sidewalk cafes, and yes, we did enjoy some treats from sidewalk cafes and vendors. Okay, and then one of the major tourist destinations in Yangon is the Karawik Royal Palace. This is actually a barge on the eastern shore of Kendagi Lake. It opened in 1974, serves as a restaurant and a performance center for traditional dance performances. Now, another major destination in the capital is this Chuktachi Buddha. We've been to a number of Buddhist countries throughout Asia, particularly Southeast Asia. This, I have to say, is one of the most impressive Buddhas we've ever seen. It is 217 feet long. It has a crown encrusted with diamonds and other precious stones. The feet, I should say, is made in 1907, and the feet have 108 patterns on the feet. And if you are familiar with Buddhism, one of the things you always have to remember when visiting Buddhist temples is to never show the soles of your feet, your shoes or your feet. But Buddha can do that. The legend was that this Buddha used to stand above the city. But after several hundred years, he got tired, slumped down, and forever after, he is the reclining Buddha. Okay, and again, we have the Shwedagon Pagoda. Shwedagon Pagoda, or sometimes referred to as Dragon Pagoda. again, lit at night. It is the most sacred Buddhist pagoda in Myanmar, and it is quite an impressive sight. It stands 322 feet above its base.
What's it made of?
Well, it's made of a number of different materials, wood and stone, but it is covered with gold leaf. 60 tons. 60 tons of gold. And numerous precious stones. Yes, 75 carat diamond sits at the top. Right up here. And I have a note here that photos cannot do this complex justice, but we tried. We tried, but I think you get an impression that, yes, it is so large and so impressive that it is difficult to do it justice. The pagoda itself, the main pagoda, is over 2,500 years old.
Notice
It
the
is-
feet.
Hmm?
Notice the feet. are
Oh, bare feet, yes. Always bare feet in any kind of temple complex. And again, we visited temples, Hindu and Buddhist temples in a lot of different countries. And although some countries, they will allow you to go in even with your shoes on or sandals. Some just take your shoes off and you can walk around with your socks on. In Myanmar, nothing doing. You must have bare feet. And there are a lot of pigeons. So handy wipes can be your friend. And another thing I might mention is the distinction or lack thereof between temple, pagoda, stupa. Stupa is a word I haven't used yet, but many of the smaller buildings surrounding the main building are referred to as stupas. These also can be located by themselves out in the countryside, and are all places of worship. Now, to us, there seemed to be little distinction between them, except from our own observance. Pagoda was used, and some pagoda or paya in Burmese, seemed to be used more for those which you could enter, versus a stupa that was a building but that was not entered. Okay. Usually there is a mythological lion guarding the main entrance, and you can see him there. Many gorgeous works of art, things that have been added to the temple complex over centuries. Again, then I might lapse and use temple or pagoda particularly interchangeably. And we have to always be reminded these are obviously major tourist sites, but they are places of worship. So we always had to be, and should be, very respectful of that. Okay, where are we? Oh, the day of the week on which you were born determines your, quote, planetary post. And remember, there are 8 days of the week because Wednesday is split into 2. In these, at these different stupas, there are sites. You find the one that conforms to your planetary post day, your day of birth. You find that, and you then can pour consecrated water over the Buddha as a means of prayer corresponding to your day of birth. Okay. Oh, okay. We're leaving Yangdong. Okay. Now, this is driving to Mandalay, and just a few rural scenes along the way to Mandalay, which you can see buffalo and oxen, farm animals, and then, well, Mandalay, I'm getting dizzy here. And just to remind you then here, Mandalay, this is the Central Plains, and it is not noted, but this is the Irrawaddy River right here. That main thoroughfare that runs almost the length of the country. Major thoroughfare for essentially time immemorial. Mandalay was the last capital of the Burmese monarchy. It is a spiritual and cultural capital. Also, interesting modes of conveyance. Mandalay is say compared to Rangoon, it's a more laid back city, more of a slower pace of life there, and also fascinating. Again, street scenes in Mandalay. Mandalay is known as a market city throughout Southeast Asia. And so the streets have many stalls, street vendors, and then a very large market. Here we see some things available in the market. Obviously, lots of fruits and vegetables, but also pottery and other handicraft items. I think, do we have some baskets? Yeah. And children.
They were trying to sing us a song.
Yeah, we didn't understand it, but they were having fun. We took a short trip then, 44 miles west of Mandalay to the National Botanic Gardens, Kandagil. These were put together by an English botanist, Alex Rogers, in 1915, and carried on by a number of British, particularly until independence. Now I believe that the gardens are run by a Singapore company. It's 434 acres with a number of different flower beds and displays where we got black swans with their cygnets. But a good portion of it is landscape garden, including natural features, like, as you can see, ponds, lakes, hills, and appropriate plantings. There are also, as befitting a botanic garden, a number of specialized gardens. They have a croton garden, a bamboo garden, and an indigenous orchid garden with beautiful specimens like this. And I hope those photos came over well, because it poured down rain the day we were there. And we took refuge under a makeshift tent with a number of locals, because it's a very popular place for local people to go and simply walk through the gardens. And we had a lot of fun that day, though. Okay. Oh, the Irrawaddy River. Yes, I've mentioned it earlier. Basically, Mandalay and a number of major cities, Bagan, that you will see later, are on the Irrawaddy River. The headwaters of the river are in Tibet. And it really becomes the Irrawaddy River in Kachin province, and formed by the confluence of two smaller rivers, then flowing down into the Mandalay region, through Mandalay, bisecting the country from north to south into east and west divisions, emptying into the Indian Ocean through the delta, actually the Andaman Sea portion of the Indian Ocean. Here is a portion of the river within the city of Yangon. Might just mention, it was difficult there to take pictures where you didn't see pagodas.
Yeah.
And that was an area of the old royal compound that was being used at that time anyway by the military, and so you had to be careful of taking photos that included that. So we one of the best ways to see life along the river, of course, is to take a river cruise, which we did starting in Mandalay. Here we are getting on.
Oh,
And
boy.
can you see? Here's the plane, and they're holding something so that you can hold on to it to get on there. Again, quite fun, quite fun. And here's, I think this is the first of some river scenes, basically life along the river. I guess, yes. These bamboo rafts are used. You saw those everywhere along the river, using those to carry all kinds of supplies, farm produce and such. This was a pagoda that we saw along the river, and this is the one photo that is from the internet. This is not my photo. It is a little bit out of focus, but it was very difficult, even with my wide-angle lens on the boat, to take a photo that encompassed this entire pagoda. And so we used one from the internet that did it more justice than just showing parts of it. And you can see there are terraced concentric rings. I believe there are 7 of them. This pagoda was built in 1816 by a prince in memoriam of his wife who died in childbirth. So it stands apart. It's not, it does not look a lot like most other pagodas, and there's a different reason for it. You might compare it to the Taj Mahal in some respects like that. The prince supposedly sold 100,000 emeralds to fund the construction. And it is modeled on a physical description of the Buddhist sacred mountain, Mount Meru, that is supposed to be the center of the universe. Okay, here is a lovely young woman going to enter a temple, and notice, yes, no shoes, no sandals, no socks. And this is the Kuthada Pagoda. It's a gilded pagoda crowned by an ornamental spire in the shape of an umbrella. And these little girls are selling flowers that then you can use as offerings once you get into the pagoda. And we typically have done this. It is, I think, a good experience to participate in these kinds of offerings when you visit places like this. This pagoda houses, in quotes, the world's largest book. These stupas, oh, did I miss that? Yeah, okay. These stupas contain 729 marble slabs on which are written the teachings of Gautama Buddha. It's right at the foot of the Mandalay Hill, and therefore is referred to as the world's largest book. I think this is, yes, this is a portion of the pagoda complex. I think we have a few photos inside here, yes. This was one of the places, one of the pagodas that you could photograph inside. And just note the very intricate and beautiful tile work and gold leaf. Many of these are simply stunning. Okay, nearby then, also, or still in the Mandalay region, is the Golden Palace Monastery. Shwenanda, Kian. This was originally an apartment of the Mandalay Royal Palace, founded by King Mindon in 1857. Now, all the wooden buildings that you see in Myanmar, all of the traditional wooden buildings, I guess I should say, have a typical architecture. So you can see this kind of a terraced architecture, and are well decorated with intricate wood carvings, and usually are gilded. This one originally was gilded, but no longer is. I think it still is impressive for the wood carvings. And around it, there are stupas and slabs and figurines that are still gilded. Oh, and then this one, within the pagoda, you can see this is the Buddha, and this is the offering box. You'll see more of those, some distinctive. Also then in that area is a gold leaf workshop with a demonstration of how they make the gold leaf. If you can see, each one is individually pounding with these mallets on the metal. Here's the metal on kind of an anvil, and then here's another one here, and then this one here. So they are pounding the gold into a very thin gold leaf, of which we have an example there on the table, if you want to look at that. And I might say that then that gold leaf is sold to individuals who then can take it into the pagoda and apply it to a Buddha. Some of the Buddha statues that we saw had gold leaf applied to them for so many centuries that you could not determine the form of the Buddha. Let's see. Oh, this is, yes. This is Amarapura. It's a town just to the west of Mandalay, and one of the major monasteries of the country. Okay, this monastery was built in 1910. It's actually more of a complex, of a monastic college complex. They not only have Buddhist teachings there and meditation, but scholastic studies, math, science. They have a computer lab there. And this is where many young boys, young men, get their education, is at the monastery. And I might mention that it is not required that they go to the monastery, but a very good place to get an education. And they don't have to remain a monk for all their lives. They can go for however long they wish. It's a matter of choice. This is the ritual feeding of the monks. This happens every day, and it is performed by members of the community. And it is quite a sight. There are thousands of monks of all ages. Here's a younger one who's taking away his daily rations that he just received. And I think that's probably a good place to take a break. Is that good, Emily?
Yes, it is. It is about 7:45, everybody. So we will have a 10-15 minute break, so we can reconvene like around 8. That'd be fine with you?
Sure.
All right. And we'll see you all at 8.
What's line number on yours?
40, exactly halfway through.
Oh, good.
No, I'm throwing in some things that I didn't,
I know, we didn't talk about it. Okay.
we didn't talk about.
Well, it's coming across as college.
The
so
memory
we're not-
comes back,
Yeah.
you know.
Been a long while.
10 years, but it was a very memorable trip. And it's impossible to cover everything.
How long were you there?
Your wife had a different hairstyle when she went into the,
Oh,
like a short.
well,
That wasn't her, right?
pardon?
That wasn't her, the one with the painted toes.
Without shoe? Yeah, that was her.
And she had a shorter hairstyle then?
She only cuts her hair when they travel.
Yeah, she,
So that's why, since they're not traveling, it's long. That's what I was told.
I kept like.
but it was 10 years
Whether
ago.
it was or wasn't her, but it was, eh?
This is what I have to tell you. Jackie and I meet for breakfast on Monday. My skin is weird today. It's not gonna be so. Anyway, so then I go meet Carol at Orchard Lake. And all these people pull up with these Ranger boats, which is what's used for bass fishing, because Mark's got one. And they're specific, kind of like a skiff with tall seats so you can cast and stuff, anyway. And you get them in Flippin, Arkansas, because Mark went down and got his. So, this man, Carol and I are knitting, because she's always got knitting questions when I see her, because, I don't know, she can knit just fine, but she can't always see, like I can see, does that make sense of, where it's gonna go? I said, there no, that makes sense. Anyway, so we're knitting, and I'm just knitting a dishcloth because I'm not into wool right now, and I don't have anything. So this man comes up to us and says, oh, when I'm bass fishing, my wife is always knitting. And he was nice looking, nice man. Where's Jackie's husband? Later in the night, I said to her, you know, I was at the Orchard Lake boat launch, they said there was all these rangers and bass tournament, I thought I'd see Michael. And she said to me, he was there. And then I say, well, yes, you know, she said, you know, something about he was foxy, and I said, well, this guy came up to him, was nice, foxy, and looked familiar, but I didn't think it was Michael. So he was mortified to think that he didn't know me. I said, I didn't know him. I have not seen Michael since 17 maybe, and I had, you know, different hair, like Nancy. And, you know, it wasn't this gray, because it wasn't white. And I said, Jackie, I didn't know him either, and they said, the other thing is, you heard about the night I went to their house and Jackie just kept pouring me scotch. I mean, she just poured me like glasses like this. I went out to my car and went, listen, be careful. And the next thing I knew, I was laying in Jackie's driveway, just flat on my back, and laughing my head off, because I felt so quickly, it didn't even hurt. I was up. I was down. It was hysterically funny. So anyway, then, the next time Michael would have met me, we were at Jennifer, who used to work at the store's wedding, and Michael just kept Jackie and I, he's like, you two just drink and have fun. I'm driving, Greg was driving. Jackie and I drank like fishes. So I said, Michael's never seen me sober. So we were laughing. Oh, it was so funny. But, you know, the way it worked out. I guess I could have one because there's plenty. I'd like to try the tea. You want one of yours? Yeah. I'm gonna get up. I'm going to get some water.
Oh, more from it? More than our silver state. That's the one in the Methodist church. Correct. Because Nancy had said that they had mentioned something to her about, one in the powerhouse gym.
Yeah, Joe Barnett goes down there, or she hasn't been there. That spoke with her a couple of weeks ago. She said she still hasn't been out and about. And then, they call it paranoid, you know, each their own, you know, what you want to do.
Yes, they follow you around. As they come
Because I was thinking, at one time, seeing everybody around, it'd be kind of nice if we could all get together for a lunch.
You don't,
Like we did
you're not
before,
allowed to
the
take
hilltop,
hand
you know.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how that's gonna go, with this variant, you know, spread going around. We may be back, we're not in the normal mode yet.
You know, you have to dive in, it probably doesn't include anything.
No, because they have a lot of.
I don't know when.
Yeah.
If we could get vaccinated, it would make it a lot easier.
Right.
If we could get 80 to 85% people vaccinated, things could go back to normal.
Yeah,
You know, that's what it would take.
okay.
Because there would be such a small portion of population
Yeah, okay, but there are
you know,
wait,
available for fire.
Because they do a lot of walking.
How much do what is for?
And like, not that there are different people that have been fully vaccinated, but they still have variant, but they're not as sick as they normally would
Would
be.
be,
Yes,
would be,
it's
yeah.
not like
And seen on the news today, you know, about a booster shot, and 8 months after, you know, your last shot, but, you know, I had mine, I shot in March, and 8 months.
Yeah.
Well, it might be in December, but I don't know how it would affect if you started early or what.
Yeah, I don't know. I know that's what they, well, they were, initially they were saying 6 months, now I guess they're saying 8 months.
Right.
So,
I mean, we were told to bring
you
them
know,
up.
I've been thinking about it, I don't know, I got mine in January.
So we finally stopped at one of the street stores, and we went in all the way.
Once is
I was kind of waiting for them
They're
to
like
come around and finally,
and say, sure, what did you get, Pfizer?
I got their Pfizer and all the thing that
You
I
just
have
didn't
an
care
app
how
on my
Lucky
phone
they were,
Yeah.
because
for my,
nobody ever brought
all
those
my
back.
medication to
I
speed
was
both.
gonna say,
And I got a message on it, and why I mailed the both, I made the call,
yeah.
went in right away, and got my,
No.
You know, do people, I mean,
and then I got my oldest sister. She was very happy, well, I'm 89 years
yeah,
old.
that's their,
Very
they don't, that's what, thank you, that's what.
Well, Nancy.
Now, they made that,
Yeah.
years ago, when we were there, I didn't know.
Somebody, I thought it was Karen Reed, maybe it was someone else, said something about it.
Oh, Marion went over there,
When we were
she
in
didn't like it.
February,
Oh, maybe it was
we went out
Mary.
of our
Yeah,
hotel.
Mary, she didn't like it.
And
She
it
didn't
was
like
like
that,
a
so
Nancy
she
had said that
she
she,
was gonna
And
go
we didn't
there
realize.
at the Methodist church, and I said, if you don't like that, I said,
Okay.
I took the summer session off, the fall session will start after Labor Day,
We
if
should
you
have
want to
realized
ride with me
all
over
fans
to
and
Good
our
Shepherd.
work, we should have been smart enough to figure it out, and pay attention to what we were doing.
Nancy was going to go, but she
Very, very, very.
injured her leg
Yeah, and that's
right before I left
for Europe.
to go to Europe. She was, yeah, they
It's a
sort of
it's a
thought
political problem.
she had a stress fracture.
Right.
But the MRI said that
I
no,
wish
it
we
was
were back
just a
when I
very
got
bad
it.
strain of
Mm.
that leg, one leg muscle.
Oh,
But they said, you gotta be very careful because you could end up with a stress fracture.
Mm.
They are.
So she has been good. And she didn't, try it out, she just been doing some walking,
Right, yeah.
walking around town and stuff.
yeah, yeah.
And do you remember Derek? Derek, he took over for Thomas, for a few sessions.
Oh.
He's one of the physical therapists.
Oh, okay.
That helps with. He's her
I
therapist.
doubt
Oh.
some of the cities.
And then I often wonder what happened to all the
Millions of
instructors,
dollars.
Yeah.
Well, they're,
Thomas and,
Yeah, she was pretty flat.
I'm not sure if Gary's there, but I know Thomas is doing it
They just left.
in his house, him and his wife, both they have their clients.
yeah.
And, I don't know where,
It's in bad shape.
Jerry Cheryl?
Jerry has been doing some
I was wondering why the British
on
are
his
friendly.
own.
I
I
never
don't
went
know
to Canada.
where, but I know Jerry has been doing some.
I know the British were
And
very.
then Blake, he
Yeah,
just
but
dragged
I
me.
can't remember what battle or something, and as soon as Michael said that, I went, yeah, what was the name of that? He'll come to me in the middle of the night if you want, I'll call you.
He got
I don't
into,
remember now, but yeah.
PT school in Salt Lake City. And moved out there and loves it. This is from there to Nancy.
Houses, they're not, you know, they've got walls.
They also
They're not like ten,
about, no game,
Yeah.
and, trying to get a hold of Bob, the guy that was, my,
Yeah.
I don't know how they
and so I had his phone number.
Yes, I mean, it's
And I called him, I talked to him a few times, see how he's doing, because he
okay,
was
so,
And when you
in
see
the
the one
process
place
of having that
at the very
stomach,
end of
Yeah, surgery.
thing. Right, and, then I called him one time, and
it's all the.
I never remember his sister again,
Well,
pancreatic cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And when we were at that, dinner at Bruce and Mary's, or Deer Lake.
And you see how,
Yeah, that's right.
There's so many places. They call it third world country.
That's what,
yes, they do.
We run into, Ron and Helen every so often.
yeah, I do too. I have breakfast with them usually every Friday down at the Dixie Diner.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Where is that, Dixie?
It's the old, National, Coney Island, right just south
I
of,
know where
No,
that
we
is.
just
are on
south
a
of what
tour.
used to be,
It's called, Journeys
in that
International
furniture
Van
place.
Gogh
Yeah.
Golf.
Yeah, we've been down there before.
yeah, and we meet about 8 o'clock on Friday, and we have a small group that gets together.
Yes.
And then I came around town, and a couple times, and Ron and Helen and I will have breakfast together at the old village.
Village Cafe, yeah.
And you know, you sold out. The owner, Pete, and Heather.
We won't stay up here.
He sold out, he sold it to the guy that owns the Moose
You have a
Preserve.
longer
Okay. Yeah, and it's a wider draft.
You know that house, was that just recent?
Yeah, yeah, I think last.
Because we just, last time we were in there, we was in there.
Oh, yeah.
So.
I did.
No,
For a while, I had them the first I went to Houston, but now I know where they are.
and still.
Nancy and I used them when we were somewhere, because I went, wait a minute, I got something from them, I did. And I told them, I said, fresh stuff, now I'm good, I'm not gonna touch anything, so I sent, showed them to, I
Because I
sent a
always
picture to
remember
Frank.
that, the foot on the side,
You know.
I was tossed on his toast.
When I was away, we'll order more, I couldn't believe it. Cause he said it really came just like Mr. Stan said. He said,
Yeah. Ruth's spot.
he could also, like,
The rest of the building.
Yeah, I know, I just wiped off my, after Henry yesterday, not that it's bad, but it's just my tablet was so fingerprinted because,
Historic district.
so I have electronic wipes and no, and that's a good thing, yeah. There's something where you can get a brass keyring or something, and they said brass is, you could use it to open the
Call that.
but it's such a piece that I don't wanna carry it, does that make sense?
So now they're working on what they're gonna do. There's that,
But they
Hello,
said-
everybody. So it is about 8 o'clock right now. So if you want to take back your seats, so Nancy and Michael can resume, then we can all do that.
He's working on a plan to have a restaurant.
Hi, hi.
Oh, we're supposed to get back to work.
Yeah, I know it's about 8 o'clock right now. I know how much people really enjoyed the conversations. But you'll be able to do that after the presentation. And also, if once the presentation's done, are you guys willing to take questions?
Oh, sure.
Of course. Of
No.
course, some people took some questions earlier.
No guarantee that we can answer them, but we'll try.
All right, sounds good. So we shall continue.
Okay. Where,
I hit the button,
you hit the wrong one. Go back.
there,
Is that the next one?
yes.
Okay. Oh, I gotta take this off. Okay, to
Walking bridge.
go back to relocate, we're in Amarapura, a town to the west of Mandalay in the Central Plains. And again, in the vicinity of the Irrawaddy River. Okay, this is at a lake in that region, the Ubain Teak Bridge. Okay, now, we saw some monks walking across the bridge. This is a footbridge. It is 3/4 of a mile long, 1,089 teak posts. It crosses the Tantaman Lake near Amarapura. And again, you can see here all these teak posts. Here's someone walking across. From the color of their garb, I'd say that may be a monk. And there are 9 locations here where the footbridge can be removed to allow vessels to go through. Because this is basically at a fairly low water level at this time of the year. And so water level at some point may be up here. And therefore in order for vessels to go through, local farmers and fishermen and such, you have to be able to lift up portions of the walkway. I think is that, it was built around 1850, and it's the oldest and longest teak bridge in the world. The wood was reclaimed from the former royal palace in Inwa. Again, here's some more scenes along the river, and again, of course, you have stupas with farming scenes. And again, remember, this is a river valley that is a very fertile river valley and has been for centuries. Again, here's some teak logging being done within view of a temple complex. And fishing in the Irrawaddy. Just happened to catch this young man who was showing his prize. He gotten a fish. Okay, in this area, we visited a silk factory. Silk manufacture is a major industry in Burma, as it is in many of the countries of Southeast Asia. And notice the young woman here on the left. Does that look familiar to you?
I know, I look really tall, don't I?
This is, yeah. Yes, she treasured that experience of being able to feel taller than someone. But anyway, yes, she purchased this outfit there among many, many beautiful outfits that were made there. This is a hill overlooking the river valley, and it's notable for being covered with 600 white painted pagodas and stupas and monasteries. It's widely regarded as a religious center in the country, home to 3,000 monks and 100 meditation centers. There are paths along those hillsides that connect the monasteries and pagodas. This is a stairway that leads to the Panyashin Pagoda that was built in 1312. Notice the large central pagoda and right next to it, a very large gilded Buddha. And if you, here's more from that temple complex. This is one of the more revered shrines in Myanmar. The translation is the shrine of the earliest offering. And if you have not noticed before, you noticed in this case there are stairs going up, that the pagoda is on the hillside, or on the hill, the top of the hill, and there are many stairs leading up to it. So you have to be willing to walk those stairs, walk up those steps to get to the pagoda. This one you could also photograph inside, and we're rewarded with many beautiful treasures. Here you can see, if you recall, the young girls who were selling the flowers as offerings. Here are some of those offerings in front of the Buddha. And this, again, just reminding us, this is a place of worship. There's two worshipers there. And this one here, if you remember, you've seen some collection boxes before, and this is, again, is a particularly important shrine with several collection boxes and a bronze rabbit.
We don't know why a rabbit.
We're not sure why. No one could explain why a rabbit. Okay, now this is, we're back on the riverboat going to Bagan with a stop at Yandobo village and an overnight dock in another village, Shwinanten. We would arise, well, let's go on to Yandobo, and I'll say that later. At Yandobo village is known for their terracotta pottery. This is a fairly simple, rustic terracotta pottery. Not very much individual variation between the pots made by different potters in the village. Here's obviously an example, and there's one over there on the table. these pots were used predominantly, as we were told anyway, in an annual spring ritual, which you fill the pot with water and float flowers on the top of it. So we have tried doing that. Here's a beautiful sunset on the Irrawaddy River. And again, we're on our way to Bagan. Oh, here we go. Yes. Okay, here's Mandalay. Here was the hill, Mandalay. Annapurna that we were at was somewhere right around here. And now we're going down the Irrawaddy to Bagan. Now, Bagan is notable for being the world's largest and densest concentration of Buddhist temples, pagodas, and stupas, and ruins of such. In the 2nd century AD, the kingdom had over 10,000 Buddhist temples in this region. And remember, this is a fertile plain of the Irrawaddy River. And so civilization is burgeoning there. Over the years, however, many of the structures have been damaged or suffered from disrepair. Today, there are only around 2,000 temples / pagodas that are still visible. They are trying to repair and restore some of these. Now, we arose at sunrise or on the river at the town of Bagan. Here again, we have street scenes with street markets. It's a bustling, small city. And the site of another major temple. This is the Shuizagan pagoda. This was built in the 11th century by 2 different kings. And over the centuries, just like so many others, a lot of these surrounding stupas and such were added. This was the location of the first royal endorsement of 37 nats. This is a local term for spirits. I don't believe I can really discuss the significance of those in the Buddhist religion, but that was of importance for this particular pagoda. Again, the mythological lion guarding the main entrance. And again, the 37 nats are presented within the pagoda, and here is one of them. Okay, nearby in Bagan was a lacquerware workshop. This is one of the major handicrafts of Myanmar. And you can see, okay, here these women are performing the process of making the lacquerware. Here's one of the more refined final product. And you can buy lacquerware there that is simply utilitarian, and you can buy very fine, beautiful pieces like this. Over on the table, we have one. The small piece is one of those very fine lacquerware pieces with gold leaf on the stem. And then there are a couple of pieces of rustic lacquerware from the hill tribes that are more utilitarian. And the one large piece that looks like a pumpkin is an antique piece of lacquerware that is for food presentation at the table. Okay. In Bagan, as I mentioned, there are many old temples in disrepair, and there are horse-drawn cart drivers that are only too happy to take you around through these temples. You can stop and look at different ones. There will be some photos. Actually, the very last photo on here is from this, because some of them are very photogenic. Okay, here in Bagan, we took a balloon ride, pardon me, to see the temple complex, the huge temple complex, from the air. This was a wonderful experience. We arose at 4 o'clock in the morning and started out when it was very foggy. As you can see, there were, I think, 3 balloons. This is one of the other balloons that went up. And here are some of the sights of these temples from the air. And again, you can see that that in that previous photo it was rather foggy, and then the fog starts to burn off, and this is what we have. Some lovely old temples. This one, I'm afraid, I'm sorry, it's a little bit out of focus because the balloon was moving. Okay, we're back on the ground and in one of the city markets. As you can tell, we spend a lot of time in city markets, looking at the different foodstuffs and such, and handicraft items. Oh, this thrown in there just if you go to Asia, this is the famous Asian squat toilet, and therefore it is highly encouraged for women who are tourists also to wear skirts or dresses. Again, we're out on the countryside. I believe that this is on the countryside on the way to, yes, on the Shan Plateau. The Shan State, or Shan Plateau, is in the easternmost part of the country bordering on Thailand. So we have rolling fields here of wheat and mustard. You can tell the mustard are those yellow plots. And really beautiful. I don't think my photo does it justice. And again, lots of opportunities to see children on oxen. Oh, that's basically, oh, okay, yes, we're going to explore the Pindaya Caves. Along the way, on the Shan Plateau, there are the Pindaya Caves. These are located in a limestone ridge overlooking the Pindaya Lake. Again, we have, if you can tell, this is stair steps all along here, and it goes back around. There's probably some other photos that you can see. Yes, here we are again. And the stair step, that's roofs covering the steps up. The caves extend about 500 feet into the mountainside and contain over 9,000 Buddhas of various sizes and materials, including white marble, bronze, plaster, even brick. Now, and the public, there are actually 3 caves. The public can only enter one of them. This is inside the caves. So this is one of the lovely stupas within the caves. Again, many gilded Buddhas. Okay. So again, here we are. This is the Shan Plateau of the Shan State. Again, as I said, well, borders on Thailand here and Laos. We're going to spend a fair amount of time at Inlet Lake. Now, Inlet Lake is a small lake. It's 7 miles wide by 13.5 miles long. There is really no distinct shoreline to the lake. It is a freshwater lake, and it's the second largest in Myanmar. There are numerous villages all around the lake and within the lake. We actually stayed, and our hotel was on in these cabins on posts in the lake, surrounded by lotus. And here we see a couple of farmers with produce in their canoes. The Intha people, yes. The Intha people are the ones who live here, and this is a whole way of life. These are floating gardens. They are built up from water hyacinth and lotus. They carry soil in canoes from the banks and build them up on the floating hyacinth and lotus, so that these are tillable, and they grow many different kinds of plants. I think we saw corn, tomatoes, and such growing on these floating islands. They can be, they are somewhat moored in the lake. They can be cut loose and sold to someone else and moved to a different location. It's really a fascinating way of life. They have their own water purification system. And electricity, here's their electricity. They didn't say anything about power outages. But we're familiar with that here. Okay, I said, oh, this is, life on the lake. I think there's just a few photos of life on the lake. There were, here's some other houses on stilts and children. There's a monastery on the lake, and here's some young monks at the monastery. Somebody doing the dishes. On that lake, there's also a silk and lotus weaving factory. Okay, now, we see, pardon?
Your tie is from there.
Yes. They use both the lotus from the lake, that we saw some of those earlier, and silk. Process them, dye them with natural dyes. This, there's a tie up there, and this tie I have on. It's alternating lotus fiber and silk. And here's the weaving. And there's also a scarf on the table from there, with both of those fabrics. Now, again, as I said, the lake is known for the floating gardens, which is very unique aspect. It's also known for the fishermen who use this unique leg rowing technique. If you can tell, he has his leg wrapped around the oar, the single oar here, and he's standing on one foot
He's got a good.
on the stern of this canoe.
Cause he,
Uh,
otherwise he'd fall in.
This allows them to use both hands to throw their nets. It also gives them the height and perspective to look through the water for the fish and also to see where they're going. A lot better than if they were just sitting in the canoe. And this, as we went around the lake, we went to the silk and lotus fiber weaving place. We went to a cigar factory that we didn't show here. We went to a place for lunch, and here's a place for lunch. All on stilts in the water. And wherever we went, we saw the fishermen doing the leg rowing, which looks extremely awkward, or I should say it sounds extremely awkward, but they made it look very, very natural and fluid. Okay, and this is, again, in this area where there were many pagodas and stupas needing renovation. I wanted to say, just make a note about the food when at the time when we went to the restaurant. The food of Myanmar was very interesting. It was uniformly excellent. Many vegetables and fruits, along with mostly fish. Although we did have some excellent duck. It is based, of course, on local Burmese vegetables, fish, and fowl and animals. But because of its location between two very large and powerful neighbors over centuries, China and India, they were a crossroads for travel and commerce. And so they've had the influences of China, Thailand, India, with sauces, condiments, and preparation techniques. So it's a wonderful, very interesting cuisine. We have a cookbook of Burmese cooking you might want to look at. Okay, that said, then again, many of these pagodas, and although unfortunate in that they are in such disrepair, I found them to be very photogenic. Many with entangling vines, vegetation, also with local farm animals. Oh,
That's us.
and that's us. With one of the, I searched around to say, okay, which one of these temples do we want to have our photo taken with, and chose that one. And then I think this is dusk over Lake Inlet. And as I mentioned, there was that one photo which was not ours, and some of the details sourced from marketing materials. So, I believe we're finished, and we'd be happy to entertain questions.
You said there was a wide disparity between rich and poor, but how did you find the cost of living and the general way of life when you were travelling from hotels and what you saw?
Well, we had a prepackaged tour. That was the only way that you could enter Myanmar at that time, was through a prepackaged tour. Only certain tour agencies or providers were granted a concession to take tours there. And so, and ours, I should say, I should probably give a plug to Journeys International in Ann Arbor, because they were one of the very first that were allowed to take tours to Myanmar. And they do tours all over, and we've taken tours with them in a number of different countries all over the world, but they really do have a specialty in Asia. So anyway, we were not paying individual prices for hotel rooms, meals, and that sort of thing. I don't know, did you have anything to say?
The accommodations, you always had, the room was always clean, you almost always had hot water.
It was difficult.
It was basic accommodations,
Some,
except for the capital,
there were a couple places that were luxurious.
yeah, in the
That
capital.
were over the top luxurious. Then some places were, you know, more basic. The accommodations on Inla Lake, I don't know if I would say Spartan. I mean, it was a beautiful location, and that's why we were there. It was a beautiful location, but there was not hot water.
Nope.
There was not hot water there. You could ask for a pot of hot water for tea or something, and they, you know, very happily brought you hot water, and it was like that. You know, but you didn't have hot running water. But again, you go some places, you know, for reasons other than having hot running water, and it was certainly worth it, you know, to go to Inla Lake and stay on one of those cabins on stilts. I didn't show the walkway that you had to walk out to get to those, but it was great fun and a very worthwhile experience.
It was,
Were you there?
we were gone 3.5 weeks. Yes, because getting into Myanmar is a problem. You have to go through Singapore.
Oh, that was the only, at that time, that was the only way you could get there. I don't know if that's true now.
I don't know if that's true or not. So the first few days of the trip, we were like, okay, we'll probably never go back to Singapore. So we added Singapore on the front end, and then the tour was just under 3 weeks.
How do you like Singapore?
Expensive, expensive, expensive.
Yeah, Singapore is a very expensive.
You could eat off of the streets. Yeah. It was
Well,
very, very clean, but very expensive.
We would actually see people on their hands and knees in Singapore scrubbing the like driveways to hotels and that sort of thing. And it's, yeah, everything was super clean.
How do they maintain, you said that there was a lack of an infrastructure, all of those temples and pagodas, I mean, it's so, who's?
It's a matter of priority. You know, if your priority is religion, that's where the resources go.
That's where, like, just the people in the area, they just take care of the.
They take care of them.
Okay.
Michael, I was a woman, I was not allowed, but in one of the places you could buy
that's right,
a piece of the gold leaf, and you could go in and put it on one of the Buddhas
You could
to
apply
help
it
support
to
the temple.
Yeah.
And people would be poverty stricken, but they would take their pennies and go buy some of these so they could go put it on the Buddha in the temple in their community.
I mean,
It was.
you wonder why those Buddhas are so glistening gold,
Yeah.
beautiful. People
We're getting a fresh coat.
apply
Yes.
it.
Apply it, yeah.
And there were lines, long lines. You had to get in the queue to do it. We went with, it was, like I say, it was a group through Journeys International, but it's a small group, I think 12, maybe 12 people. And 2 of the other people were friends of ours from Santa Monica that we've traveled with a lot. And he and I decided we were going to participate in this local ritual, and we bought our little gold leaf and went through the queue and applied some gold leaf to the Buddha.
With all that gold leaf and everything on the Buddhists and stuff like that, what is the crime rate? Is it, you know, I would think that all the gold around people would go, if they were here in Detroit.
Yeah. When we were there in 2011, the crime rate, our understanding was very low.
Is it because of the military junta?
Yes.
That could be partially. I think part of it is cultural. I think part of it is cultural, that you don't do something that would bring disrespect to your family. And in, you know, in small communities, particularly, everybody knows who you are and who your family is. I mean, that's the way it used to be here. That you wouldn't do something that would, you know, bring that disrespect to your family. But anyway, yeah, we were given to believe that there wasn't a crime. Now, I've seen just some recent reports, though, that make me think that that may not actually be the case now, but of course there's more upheaval now. You know, Myanmar is in the headlines every so often now because of protests against the military junta. As you know, when we were there, the junta was in charge. They then, after that, handed over the government to Aung San Suu Kyi and an elected government, and more recently have taken control back. And now there have been a lot of protests. There's also been problems of very harsh action by the military in terms of discrimination of a Muslim minority. I think all of these kinds of upheavals may have caused you know, disruption in the normal action or whatever of the country, the normal milieu, whatever. And Emily, what?
Yeah, so I was gonna ask what you make of the current situation in
Oh.
Myanmar, but you basically answered my question here.
Yeah, I'm certainly not an expert. Neither of us are experts on the political situation there.
But I'll give you an
It makes me sad to see that kind of upheaval in what is a very friendly, wonderful country. I believe I said at the very beginning that all of the people we met, we did try to meet and talk to everyday people. Of course, not a lot of people spoke English, but we did try to do that, and everyone that we came into contact were very friendly. People in general seem to have a very sweet personality about them. And of course, as I mentioned also before, very devout Buddhists. That was impressed on us time and time again.
So, are most of the people that visit there English speaking? I noticed at the beginning, he had oxen that were pulling taxi,
Said
and it was
taxi,
taxi
yeah.
in English. You're like, wow.
Well, it was part of the British Empire,
Okay.
you know, until 1948. And so, yes, you see fewer, well, we, at that time, in 2011, saw fewer signs in English than we did, say, in Thailand or certainly Singapore. recently in Vietnam, say. But yes, there were some signs that at major tourist places, like the Pindaya Caves, I believe the sign was in the local, I believe it's called a Pali, P-A-L-I language, the writing of which to me is a form of Sanskrit, or evolved from Sanskrit. But anyway, then underneath that it said Pindaya Caves. At major sites like that, there would be some English translations, but English signs were not abundant. But again, it would be normal to think there would be some in English since it was so long part of the British Empire, and there are certainly British expats there.
How big was that cave? Excuse me.
So, just want to let you know, we do need to be out of the room by about 8:45, so we can probably take a few more questions, so who wants to have any more questions there?
Carol, what were you
Carol,
asking
did you-
about?
I was just wondering how huge, that cave must have been huge. It had all those Buddha.
Yeah.
It was huge.
500 feet into the hillside, and like I said, there were actually 3 cave complexes, and we were only allowed to go into one.
Okay.
And yet, you were overwhelmed by the number of Buddhas in there. And like I say, and I tried to give enough examples to give you a feeling for how many, like different sizes, different forms,
Right.
different materials. Just amazing.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody has any other questions, but we might as well, if nobody has any more questions, I'd just like to add one final question. What was the best part about visiting Myanmar?
I'm sorry.
What was the best part
Oh.
about visiting Myanmar?
Oh, the best part about visiting Myanmar.
Inlay Lake.
Oh, well, the best site, site we probably enjoyed the most was Inla Lake, because of the uniqueness of the life there, of floating, the floating gardens, and as I said, we would go in our own canoes around to different places on the lake, and you would see, the farmers farming their gardens, putting their produce in canoes, like I think we saw, putting their produce in canoes and moving them. I don't think I got any photos, or if I did, we didn't show it, of them unloading soil from the shoreline onto. We did see them doing that, see them harvesting things, and the fishermen using the leg rowing technique that is so unique. And again, I think, like I said, the accommodations were picturesque, unusual, very interesting, somewhat, less than what we were accustomed to, but totally worthwhile in order to get that experience of that location.
We had some mosquito nets, so we were
Yes,
okay.
mosquito
We
net.
put the shoes in our bed so we didn't get critters in our shoes at night. That closed your suitcase. You were fine.
But we're accustomed to that sort of thing, a lot of places that we go.
And you learned how to get down the creaky steps into the boat and
Oh,
not
yeah.
in the water.
It's
After being there for several days, you figured it out. Yeah.
It's good to have good balance.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody has any more questions? Well, thank you for doing your presentation there, Michael and Nancy. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's our pleasure to share all these
Thank
photos.
you guys for coming.
So, and thank you for all coming to this presentation. We hope to have our September one about the Badlands and Black Hills of South Dakota. That will be presented by our wonderful Teresa Cole.
That's in Malaysia.
And it should be
Yeah.
on Wednesday, September
Yeah,
5th
yeah,
at
we had to
7
fly
p.m.
from Malaysia.
We will announce
From
whether or
Singapore to
not there
Malaysia,
will be
that's not
in-person,
what
we-
virtual, or both at a later time.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we do have feedback forms in the back where you can write down how you feel
Yes.
about the program, what you suggest that we can do,
Malaysia?
and you just
In
put it in the movie container.
In Malaysia, yeah.
And we got pens on that table too.
Well, we have not been to Malaysia.
So thank you, everybody,
That's-
and
We'd love
have a
to
good
go.
Our
night.
favorite place.